So do you like Sailor Moon? Do you like beat-em-ups? If you do, this is probably the best thing ever. This game is a little bit similar to Streets of Rage design-wise, but it also has a lot of its own flavor. Each of the playable characters has their own style determined by their range of attack, their attack power, and their combo length. In addition to normal attacks, each character also has a ranged special attack, but these are pretty much all the same. Each character is also capable of throwing enemies by just walking into them, which can get them off your back and help you control the flow of battle. As you just saw, you can even change your combo into a throw by holding down during the last hit. Obviously, you just can't walk straight forward into an enemy to get a hold of them all the time. You often need to walk around them or outsmart them. It's about keeping in mind how far your attacks reach, as well as how far your enemies do. The character we're playing as right now, Mars, has the second longest range out of any of the characters. This means you can keep your distance from enemies, and she's a relatively safe character to use. But she's also not terribly powerful. It's basically a matter of preference which you're going to pick. Of course, you can't see her combo right now because she's holding a giant fan, but she'll lose it soon enough. Weapons in this game appear pretty infrequently, but they do a lot of damage and cause instant knockdown. You can't hit enemies while they're knocked down, but this game isn't really about aggression. The easiest way to die in this game is to just charge in head first or to get ganged up on. It's very rare to get hit only once. Often the enemies will gang up on you and just obliterate you. There are also pretty much no invincibility frames to speak of, so it really is a matter of controlling the battle as best you can. This being the first stage, the enemies here are rather easy to deal with, but they get pretty clever later on. Right now though, the game is just starting to introduce itself, so things aren't too harsh. Now that we have our combo back, it'll be a little easier to show you how the game works. You can control how long your combo takes by varying how quickly you press the button. This is useful for getting more than one enemy in your combo as they come at you. When enemies surround you on all sides like this, it's best to try and get them on one side. Luckily they did that for me. Later in the game, the enemies are a bit more mobile, and they have a bit of a tricky moveset. Right now though, it's just introducing you to enemies that move a little bit more erratically. If you time your throws properly, you can actually throw one enemy into another, thus knocking them both down. This is very useful because it gives you time to focus on other matters, like the other enemies charging at you. You can also knock enemies down with a jump kick, which serves the same purpose basically. You can even knock more than one enemy down with it. The way the throwing and jump kicking mechanics work is very similar to Streets of Rage, and so is the fact that the game's design is based mostly around controlling the flow of battle with them. You really have to keep aware of how long your attacks are going to take, how far they're going to reach, and what your enemies are doing at the time. So yeah, it is pretty similar to an amazing game made 7 years before it, but it's also different enough. In addition to having ranged attacks so you can keep enemies distant from you, the bosses are also very creative and explore the mechanics thoroughly. Yes, even the boss of the first stage, who we'll be seeing here pretty shortly. As soon as I finish beating on this surprisingly durable car. So now we've switched to Sailor Jupiter so we can see how she plays. She has a very short range, but she's also one of the strongest characters in the game, if not the strongest. She also has the shortest combo in the game, capable of knocking down enemies in just 3 hits. The downside is that you have to get really close and personal to do any damage with her. This means that you have to be even more aware of your range and timing. Again, which character you choose mostly comes down to which playstyle you're most comfortable with. You can use the first stage to get used to how your character controls, but by the second stage you have to be prepared. You'll know if you're using the right character depending on how hard the boss slaughters you. And here he is. Now, this boss basically acts like a wall between you and the rest of the game. If you've just been relying on jump kicks or charging head first, he'll absolutely destroy you. Instead, you have to keep in mind your character's unique range and characteristics and time your attacks appropriately. For example, with Sailor Jupiter, she has a secondary jump kick, where she brings her elbow down, allowing you to continue a combo after she lands. And since we can't charge head first at the guy, we have to choose just the right moment to jump at him. After he gets knocked down, he pounces at us, and we have to move up or down really quickly to get out of the way. This is important because it teaches you how to evade, which is very, very necessary for later stages. And down he goes. So yeah, the game is pretty well made, or at least pretty well designed, and you have to keep in mind I showed off less than half the design in this video. It's a small but pretty fun part of beat 'em up history.